In this video, I'm going to give you my 5 best tips to become a better runner in 2025. Now, I do want to start off by saying that it's not always about running faster, quicker and everything. Some of my best times in my running journey have come from times where I haven't been focusing on performance and I've been focusing more on the enjoyment factor, running with friends, getting out there in the trails, enjoying the nature. And I've had these phases where I completely forget about the numbers and performance because I knew how out of shape I was and I truly just wanted to get out there to clear my head and enjoy myself with friends. While some of these tips are more performance oriented, I think that there's enough tips that are for injury prevention as well and for like holistic running experience. So I think even if you aren't aiming for faster times in 2025, you should still watch this video. Tip number 1 is to not start races too quick. Now, I think this is a mistake that I really commonly see amongst runners. Every time I go to a race, I can almost guarantee that a ton of runners are going to run past me at the start and then I'll pick them off slowly. And it's not even just about comparing yourself with other people. It's like if you are observing other people, you can see that everyone that goes out too quick are obviously falling back later in the race and then you pick them off. So due to natural observation, you know that that's not the most effective way to pace a race. Yeah, you're just spiking your lactate so early. And I feel like that's such a waste when you want to do well in a race to just go out way too quick. You kind of wasted all the training and now you just spike your lactate and you're going to be tired way quicker than you want. Working into the race is really important. And the best example of this, which will change your perspective a little bit, is Jakob Ingebrigtsen. If you watch a lot of his 1500 races, and also Stewie McSwain, these races are only like 3 minutes 30 seconds or 3 minutes whatever at the top level, right? And that's a very short amount of time, yet they still have the time to start conservative and work into the race and then finish strong. And everyone that sprints to try and get into a good position at the start, they suffer later on because they've literally spiked their lactate to get into position. Whereas, you know, the strong runners are confident in their ability and they're also quite aerobically strong, I guess, because they do a lot of mileage. So they can afford to start a bit slower and work into the race and then have that strong finish. So people can do that sort of strategy in the 1500. I'm 100% sure that a lot of people can do that in the 5K, 10K, half marathon and marathon. However, for the marathon, there is a different type of pacing strategy. I think it's best to try and aim for like an even split and therefore it will be a slight positive split because it is really hard to negative split a race. When you look at like the top 10, top 100 people that finish in the world majors, like they're all very good runners. You have to be very good to become top 10, top 100 in a world major. But usually the one guy that happens to be able to negative split wins the race and everyone's like, wow, this guy won. Maybe negative splitting is the best way to do it. But when you look at everyone else behind him, second, third, fourth, all the way up to 100, a lot of them you'll see they ran like a slight positive split, but not too much of a positive split. A lot of people might be running even split as well. But the further you go in the pack, you'll notice that a lot of people are like really blowing up in the second half. But when you look at majority of the elite runners, they're doing a slight positive split for the marathon. And that's just because the marathon's so long, it's pretty natural to feel worse in the second half. So it's really hard to run a negative split unless you're the top 0.0001%, aka the winner of the race. But yeah, general rule of thumb is there's plenty of time in a race no matter what the distance is, so just go out slow. Like go out slower than you think you need. Even if you just mentally switch off in the first half of the race, or the first kilometer of a 5K, you'll turn that race into a 4K race and you'll just feel so much better because of it. And the final thing I'll touch on is that your brain uses a lot of glucose, your glycogen storage. So if you're stressing a lot, thinking a lot, you're probably gonna waste your glycogen storage a bit on brain activity. Whereas if you go to sleep, as Mike Smith, the former NAU coach and now Nike coach says, like you're literally kind of switching off and locking into a pace and you're not really thinking and you're just like running on autopilot, which is a very effective way to run a marathon. Now, the second tip is to do a more modern warm-up. Now, what I mean by this is that in the past, people would do like a 10 to 15 minute jog, a few strides, and they're pretty quick, and then they would get into the race. But the funny thing is, I don't think many people think about the fact that a lot of the races that you do are at that LT1 to LT2 zone, you know, marathons, half marathons. Even in a 5K, you would start somewhere between LT1 and LT2, probably closer to LT2, but still, it's below threshold, and you'll probably end, you know, with a spiked lactate, obviously. But you're spending a lot of time at threshold, and it's funny how no one does threshold in the warm-up. So a more modern warm-up that a lot of elite runners are doing nowadays, not everyone knows, is actually to do a 10 to 15 minute jog. And then you could even go straight into it, or you can have a little bit of a break in between. But you would do like a 2 to 3 minute threshold rep. And that can be like LT1 or LT2, whatever you want. It kind of depends on the race as well. But something in threshold will be nice for 2 to 3 minutes. just to prime the aerobic system a bit, just to bring up the lactate values a little bit so it's not as much of a shock when you go into the race. Because again, a lot of people go out quick in races and you don't want to spike the lactate too early. But if you prime your lactate a little bit, then it could be beneficial for the race. Another warm-up technique that Matt Hangzo talked about once is like the 2 by 60 seconds, I think it was.
Yeah, do a bit of threshold in the warm-up. Because I'm doing a 5-mile threshold run today, I'll do a 2 by 400 at threshold off 30 seconds recovery, just kind of rolling the pins out. I guess in comparison to normal strides, just prepares the body a lot better. When we start the workout, we're not shocking the system.
That again, at threshold, obviously 60 seconds at threshold is going to be pretty quick, but still, it is threshold. It's not like a stride where you're going extremely quick, so that's still good for priming the body a little bit as well. So the main point is, forget the old type of warm-up. For your sessions, it's good to practice this modern warm-up where you do a little bit of threshold in the warm-up. So yeah, try it out and see how you feel. I think it just makes total sense. You're just priming the aerobic system, you're priming the glycolytic system to efficiently clear out lactate before you start the race. It's something I've done for the past couple races, and I will be doing it for the foreseeable future races, unless I somehow find out that this is not a good way to warm up. But in my opinion, I think it's very good. Now, my next tip is to not neglect nutrition. I think I've made it really clear on my Instagram stories recently that I eat a lot, and I think it's really important. Anytime that I'm forced to accidentally have like a 3-meal day, I feel so crap. And also, if you don't eat after your training sessions at night, you're gonna feel way worse the next morning as well. And it will affect the performance of the run the next morning. So it's really important to fuel after the run. Carbs, protein, just get the calories in. I think that it's really important to remember that when you're running, you're gonna use carbs. When your bone is remodeling, you're gonna use carbs. For muscle recovery, you do need carbs a little bit as well as protein, of course. But you use carbs for a lot of things in life. It doesn't make sense to restrict yourself with carbs when you are running a lot. I already talked about this in my injury prevention video, which I made with the Schofield twins and ran to Japan. But it's more about eating enough. It's not like, am I eating too much? Can you eat enough to actually fuel the training that you're doing? Because the workload is a lot for running, and yeah, you should never neglect your fueling. Now, the other quick little tip regarding nutrition is obviously fueling during the run. If you're running for more than 90 minutes, you can definitely benefit from having a gel. And this is because you're going to deplete your glycogen storage, and having that extra gel and carb intake during the run is going to help you be able to perform better for a longer amount of time. Now, one thing I'm super excited about, which I've been waiting to mention for a while, is actually I will be supported by Precision Hydration for the next few months, leading up to my ultramarathon races in May and June, where I'm going to be trying to run very competitive times. They're both road races, so I should be able to run some pretty quick times on there. Also, given the fact that I've set a solid foundation 2 years ago running 50 kilometers at 3:49 pace, but Precision have now watched a few videos after I hit them up, and they're pretty keen to get on board. So yeah, I really appreciate it, guys. And also, they are providing a discount code 15% off for all my viewers. So if you use the code SOTA2025, you'll get 15% off. And I get 0 commission. As some of you have seen on my Instagram stories, I'm actually not keen on taking up any commission as of now. I might do in the future, but right now, I'm all about helping you guys. And yeah, so this code is purely to help you guys. Obviously, in return for transparency, I will be getting a bit of product from Precision Hydration. And this sort of collaboration only got confirmed a few days ago, and I'm still waiting to hear the final details on it, so I haven't even received any product from them yet. So all of the stuff I have so far, yeah, I bought myself already, and it is because I genuinely love the product. Also, if you remember that I did the Bondi to Manly video, which got like 30,000 views, I actually did sneak one of these in because I really wanted to make sure I get in a gel that has a good ratio of glucose to fructose. So obviously you've heard of Precision Hydration being really premium in terms of gels and performance because of their ratio of glucose and fructose. They have a 2-to-1 ratio, which is the most ideal because your body can absorb 60 grams of glucose per hour, and also on top of that, 30 grams of fructose an hour. They both use different transporters in the gut, so obviously fructose is a little bit less efficient, that's why it can only absorb 30 grams, but adding that together allows you to have like 90 grams an hour. I know there's a bit of individual variance, so some people can go up to like 100 grams, but typically it's around 60 grams of glucose, 30 grams of fructose. And I like Precision because they've scientifically thought out the ratio and the texture and all that so that they don't cause gut issues. Obviously, there's no perfect gel out there. I think everyone responds differently to gels, but if you want to play it safe and you want to start with a safe option, then Precision will be perfect for you. So yeah, try it out, see how it goes. It's really big in Australia, but I think it's a UK brand and they've done nothing but good stuff all along. So yeah, I really believe in the brand and I'll be using this a lot for my training moving forward. I also love how this is the only gel brand that I know of that has like bigger gel packets. So Obviously there's a 30-gram one, but there's also 90 grams. So if you're doing something like a trail race, it's nice to be able to open it, take a bit, and then screw it back on and carry on later. I've seen some other gels use caps for like smaller gels like this, but you don't need a cap for a 30-gram gel. You're gonna smash it out really quickly. But something like this, which is 3 gels, you just know that you kind of want one of these per hour if you're doing a trail race and you're trying to get 90 grams of carbs in, which is typically what I go for in a trail race. Stuff like this, super handy. They also have like gel flasks, which can take like 300 grams of gels, so that's like 10 gels, which is super handy if you're doing like a long ultra race. So yeah, I think everything's so well thought out that for me at least, it's the perfect brand, and I'm super excited to be featuring them on a few videos of mine in the videos to come. So get excited, use the discount code, and also let me know if you like it or not. And also if you tried it before, let me know what your thoughts are on it. I will be making a more in-depth video on nutrition actually tomorrow, and I don't know when I'll upload it, but I'll try and get it out as soon as possible. Now my fourth tip is to pay attention to your energy levels and to be flexible with the training around that. So I feel like a lot of people really religiously stick to, like, you know, Tuesday track and then Thursday tempo and then Sunday long run or whatever. Like whatever schedule you do, you're probably like really fixated on that and you hate moving workouts around. But I feel like it's really important to be fluid with your training and listen to your body. Like sometimes it's fine to drop a workout and then push it to next week or even push it a day or two. Like you should always try and understand your body and work out what's best for you in that moment. It's not good to train through fatigue and all that, because if you keep on layering the fatigue, you're eventually going to get injured. I made a video about recovery and I talked about super compensation. I'll put the graph on the screen again, but again, every time you train, you lose a bit of that, you know, fitness gains, but when you recover from that, you get that super compensation and you come back a lot stronger. If you constantly train when you're not fully recovered, you have a downward spiral, getting worse and worse every time. But if you recover, then do the next session, you're always super compensating and you're getting better over time. Obviously, you're not gonna be like that the whole time forever. You're gonna have times where you kind of maintain that as well. But the last thing you want is to train through fatigue and get worse and worse and worse every single week. Because you're gonna be putting the training in, but you're not actually recovering enough to get that benefit. And you're gonna be frustrated because you're training really hard, but you're not getting the benefit that you want. So always keep that in mind. I think that's something that a lot of people often forget. It's not always about getting in the training. Recovery is half of the equation. If you're not recovering enough, you're not going to train effectively and therefore you're not going to race well. So it all stems from recovery. Now the final thing I want to talk about, which I personally really want to work on this year now that I have the knowledge of it, is plyometrics. There's a ton of different plyometric exercises and you can go search runners plyometrics on Google and you'll probably find a few results. But the first important thing I want to mention about plyometrics is that if you're coming back from injury, maybe stay cautious and don't do it immediately after. Try and work up the strength training, build that foundation before you get into plyometrics. Plyometrics would be the last thing I introduce for someone coming back from injury, just because it's the most demanding on the tendons and whatnot. And a lot of injuries tend to be tendon based nowadays, so that's my reasoning on why. But plyometrics, if you don't have any injuries, if you're niggle free and you've been training well for a few weeks and you're just feeling really good, it will be really beneficial for your running in many ways. It's going to improve your running economy through better tendon strength, because when you're using your tendons a bit more efficiently, there's obviously slightly less muscle activity that's needed, and less muscle activity means better running efficiency and therefore better running economy. Also, it's going to strengthen your tendon, so you're stressing the tendon in a way that it will adapt and get stronger and more resilient, and therefore you're probably going to be a bit more injury free and injury resilient, which is very good. You're also increasing your ability to go through the stretch shortening cycle, which is your ability to switch from eccentric contraction to concentric contraction in a short amount of time in a rapid motion kind of thing, reactive strength. That's beneficial because when you compare someone that goes from this position to jumping up and someone that can load up the tendon and then jump up, you're obviously going to get way more power if you can go down a bit, eccentrically contract and then burst up. So that's the benefit of the stretch shortening cycle, and you are going to work on that a lot better if you do plyometrics. So yeah, super important, don't neglect it. But anyway guys, thanks for watching the video. This has been super fun to make and talk about a lot of details that not everyone talks about, but I think it's super important that we get that clear, and I want to make it public knowledge. I want to make it, you know, general knowledge to know all this, because it will help with the running for sure. I hope you guys have a good 2025. There's a huge year ahead. We're only 10% into the year, so there's a lot of fitness gains to be made and a lot of good race results to be run, I guess. So yeah, leave a like, comment below as always, and yeah, buy me a coffee link is in the description. It's your way to support the channel. You can donate anything from $5 and it will support the channel, help me reinvest into some of the gear that I'm gonna buy, and I shout out everyone that donates. But anyway, I will see you in the next video.